Good evening, everyone. This is the meeting of the Joliet City Council on July 5th, 2022, with Mayor Odekirk presiding.
The invocation will be read by Father Chris Crow from St. Mary Magdalene, St. Bernard's Catholic Church, 127 South Briggs Street, after which he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Most important, thanks, Krista. I just found out that I was the mayor while I was gone, so.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you generously bestow your gifts in abundance. We are most grateful for all that you continue to do for us each day, and for the many favors you grant your people. We come in your name. We ask that you enlighten everyone here present, so that everything that is done may be done with your inspiration and wisdom. God of wisdom and justice, through you authority is administered, laws are enacted, and judgments are decreed. We ask that you will guide and support our mayor, the members of our city council, our city manager, and our city staff. Give them the strength to know your will so that all decisions may be done with a desire to please you. May their work be conducted with righteousness, and may they always promote what is for the good and welfare of the citizens of Joliet. We also today remember the residents, the first responders, the families who lost loved ones, those who remain hospitalized, and all who are affected by the shooting in Highland Park. We ask that you give us your protection so that all of us may be guided and protected from any senseless acts of violence which so unfortunately occur regularly. Likewise, O Lord, we commend to your care all of the residents of the city of Joliet, that they too may be protected, blessed, and sanctified. Together may we all work for the betterment of our community and enjoy the blessings promised to those who remain faithful to you. For we pray to you, who are our Lord and God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Feels like old times.
Glad you're feeling better, Father. How you doing? Thank you, Father. Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, Father.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Guerrero.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudron, who notified me he would not be available this evening. Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is a presentation, Comprehensive Water and Sewer Rate Study by Allison Swisher, Director of Public Utilities.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Dave Nauman with Burns & McDonnell. He's been the city's rate consultant since about 2015. And tonight he'll be providing an update on the comprehensive water and sewer rate study that we've been working on. Following Dave's presentation, I'll just give a brief update announcing our new customer portal that can be used by residents to track their water usage. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dave now.
Thank you, Allison, and good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dave Nauman with Burns & McDonnell, and I'd like to give you a briefing on where we're at with the current rate study. We'll go through some industry trends and talk about where Joliet sits with respect to those trends in water and sewer rates. We'll talk about the 22 goals and how it's similar and different from prior studies that we've done, and then propose an approach for the upcoming rates. So we'll start with some basic information about water and sewer bills. Billing for utilities in Joliet includes water, sewer, and garbage. There's an example bill to the right on the graph that shows how that breaks down for a typical residential customer. About $27 of the fee is related to garbage, and about $80 is related to water and sewer service. It's important to note for water and sewer, it's run as an enterprise fund, which means it's funded by user fees. It's not funded by any tax support whatsoever. And the majority of the bill is volumetric, meaning it's related to the water use at each customer. And so that gives a customer some control over the relative level of their bill. If we compare that $80 a month water and sewer bill amongst your region, what we see, and this is the same survey of communities that we did in 2019, is that you're below average with respect to this group. It's about where you were in the 2019 study when we looked at this. And what it tells us, you've been raising rates, and we'll take a look at some trends in that here in a moment. But what it tells us is that others around you are also raising rates, which we know nationally is the case. So this graph will give you three pieces of information. The first is represented in the blue line, and that's the Water and Sewer Index. It's a data set that's compiled by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, represents the change in household water and sewer service. It's averaging since 2000 about 4.8% increase a year, nearly 5%. CPI is in red, and that is also compiled by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and over that same period, it's averaging about 2.2%. So water and sewer rates are rising about twice, a little more than twice, the rate of general inflation. And you can see in green Joliet's path. And over the past 20 years, it's averaged about 3.8% per year, but you can see most of that was derived in the last 6 years, which is when you started taking a really specific look at your funding needs for water and sewer. Thank you. If we look back at the 2019 study just for a moment, the chart or the table on the right represents the adopted rate increases, and then an additional 3 years of forecasted rate increases that were prepared for that study. You can see it's a levelized series of adjustments. We did that to try and mitigate as much as we could rate shock with a higher increase on the water side because we knew the alternative water supply project was coming, and a less of an increase on the sewer side. So on an average basis, an increase in the 6% range. The increase in the water was intentional. We wanted to build your reserves and your financing capability in anticipation of water supply project costs. With respect to the 22 study, there are similarities and there are differences. It's a much more complicated study, much more comprehensive, but there are some similarities, and one is that we'll update financial plans to current conditions, same thing we did in 2019, to get kind of a current representation of future costs. But we'll take a much deeper dive into rate structure. In the past, when we've had a rate increase, that rate increase is applied to all elements of your user charge at the same rate. What we're looking at in this study is a couple of things, really. One is looking at the service fee, and you can see the rate example to the right is for a residential rate. There's a $6.83 per month fee. Every class pays that with the exception of the senior citizen class, which gets a little bit of a discount. But in the water and sewer industry, it's pretty common to have fees, fixed fees like this, that increase in accordance with meter size. So that's one thing we'll be looking at. It's an equity issue. It helps sustain or increase your fixed cost recovery, both as it relates to the cost of the meter as well as capacity related to fire protection. So if you've got a large account that has relatively low water use, you'll have better cost recovery with that graduated fee. The other thing we want to take a look at are the design of your water usage blocks. So you can see for the resident here, the first 200 cubic feet is at a lower price, and then a higher price for any usage above 200 cubic feet. We'll take a look at where that break is happening, and we'll also consider perhaps adding another block that would have a higher rate for higher use. And again, from an affordability and equitability standpoint, we think that's important. Also unique to this study, and what we haven't covered in the past is a look at your miscellaneous fees and connection charges. So these are fees like turn on or turn off fees, or the charge a customer pays when they connect to your system. And those fees haven't been looked at in a while, and it's a good time to do it because every dollar that we raise out of those sorts of fees is a dollar less that has to come out of your user charges. This gives you a snapshot of the rates by class, and I think it maybe puts some of the prior slide in context. You can see that daily charge at $6.83 fixed across all the classes, except for the senior class, which gets a little bit of a discount. And then volumetric rates for water, you'll see that the commercial and industrial do pay higher rates than residential. And again, your senior classes have a discount. We have run into some challenges in being prepared with a recommendation for you this November. One of those is that the cost of the alternative water supply program, which is going through a deeper level of design, won't have costs available until the latter half of this year. We have a lot of volatility in financial markets, which we hope will settle down over the next year, but that remains to be seen. But it is impactful to your utility. It affects the cost of goods and services, it's inflation, and it's the cost of debt. We have also, we need a lot of data, a lot of customer data to be able to do what we'd like to do with respect to structure change, and that's in process. But we know that your costs aren't getting any cheaper, and so it's important that we continue down the funding path and adjust rates. And so what we would propose is to go back to the prior study and adopt one more year. So we adopted the first 3 years of that study at that time in 2019. We'd recommend adopting one more year at the 10.5% for water and the 3% for sewer. And we'd propose that to be effective November 1 of this year, like you would traditionally do. And then for the remaining elements of the 22 rate study, we would complete the miscellaneous fee evaluation this year because it's not as dependent on some of the issues that we're having, but we'd come back to you about this time next year with an updated financial plan and rate recommendations. This chart comes back to that survey and simply looks at the impact of one more year of the last plan. So the 10.5% for water, 3% for sewer creates about a $5 a month increase for the average household here in Joliet. If we look at the average across the survey set, it's about $92 a month. A 5% increase there, which is consistent with national trends, also equates to about a $5 increase. So from a competitive positioning standpoint, we don't expect much change as it relates to your bills. And so just in summary, we'd propose again adopting 10.5% for water, 3% for sewer. To do that, we propose putting that ordinance in front of you July 19th. And then the remaining bullets here really just speak to the remaining elements of the study. Miscellaneous fees will cover this year. Connection fees and user charges, financial plans come to you next year with a new multi-year rate proposal. And that concludes the material I've got prepared. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, we're very excited to introduce this month our new customer water portal. So go ahead, Dave, to the next slide. You have to use the mouse. Okay. So this new tool is a free customer water portal, and it gives residents really the power to be able to use their cell phone or a tablet or their desktop computer to access their water usage 24/7. Go ahead, Dave. And so it's really simple. You can go to the website, joliet.gov/customer water portal, and there you can go and set up an account, and you can monitor your water usage and also set alerts. So really, this really gives residents the way to, empowers them to, be able to, like Dave said, control the amount of water they're using so that then they can control the amount of their water bill. Okay, go ahead, Dave. And also what we found is a lot of times people have, significant water uses within their homes they're not even aware of, such as a running toilet or an outside spigot that might be leaking. And so really when you are able to evaluate this data on an hourly basis, you can start to see where maybe some water usage is happening that you're paying for that you can easily fix. Go ahead. And so there's lots of information on the website. We have a video there that residents can view that explains how to sign up. And we have a lot of staff that are available to assist anyone with any issues they might be having accessing this information. But again, it's real-time, hourly water usage. And so I encourage everyone to sign up and use that data to really conserve water and empower their water usage. So if there's any questions, I can answer them.
Got a question.
Yes.
Is this process going to be any different for residents who are renting their property? So they might not be the ones on the account, but would they still be able to see the usage across the 24-hour period?
Yeah, so to set up the account, you need to have your water bill. And so you would need to have that account number. So we can work with, if they're in the circumstance where a landlord perhaps is paying the water bill, we'd have to look into how to get access to that information so they could set up the account. But really to do that, they can call our customer service number, which is available on the website, and they can help them do that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to appointments. Tonight, the mayor is recommending the following appointments to the Fire and Police Board. Janine Jackson replacing Craig Purchase and John Lukanczyk replacing Herb Landy. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
In addition, tonight, the mayor is recommending the following Housing Authority appointments. Marge Franchini replacing Angel Contreras and Paul Schultz. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is council committee reports. First is Land Use and Legislative Committee report.
Excuse me. Yeah, the Land Use and Legislative Committee, we met on Thursday, June 23rd in the council chamber. Committee members, myself, Councilwoman Quillman, and Councilman Clement. Councilwoman Quillman was absent, but we had a somewhat of a short agenda. I run through it.
Was it short because I wasn't there?
No, I didn't say that. The Cdbg Program year for 2022, we discussed and presented some of the applicants for some of that funding. Some of them are some of the normal applicants. I believe Councilman Clement or myself, one of the two of us, we asked about the breakdown of what they're going to do with the funding, some of the organizations in terms of that. So staff will be getting back with us with that information, just for information purposes only. Nothing was wrong or negative, anything of that nature. But it was moved to the full council for approval based on staff recommendation. Then Mr. Regis presented an amendment to an ordinance for the city code for the transfer tax, and with some discussion, and that too was asked to be tabled by the committee in order to get more information. Mr. Regis is gonna get back with us, so that should be coming up in our next, meeting, and then that will be moved to the full council. That's the transfer tax for real estate. Our next item was the sale of a vacant lot at 1320 Ada, where the city is looking forward aggressively to, the neighboring lots to the neighbors, and this was one. And one of the neighbors have agreed to purchase the lot from the city, and that was approved by committee. Let me go back to another reason we kind of tabled that transfer tax is because Councilwoman Corbin wasn't here, and we thought, that we should have the full committee. I'm sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Joe, well, I agree with Joe, he brought it up, but I agree with him.
Thank you.
Yeah, just putting that out there. And then, I'm sorry,
Put it on me.
Mr. Mayor, I slipped my mind.
That's okay.
Then what do we got? I lost my place. Number 7. The traffic code to allow the use of electric bikes within the city of Joliet. And I guess with the gas price, I'm thinking about getting me one. Mr. Regis again is cleaning that up and allowing for the use of electric bikes within our city limits, which is becoming very popular. And that was also approved by the committee to the full council. Then adding a section to disorderly conduct statute regarding and prohibiting items in school. That kind of helps with the, I guess, with the processing of some of the students that bring certain items to school, that our police officers kind of give them a tool. Am I explaining this right, Chris?
You're doing a great job.
I'm doing a good job, okay. With that, so that also was approved for this upcoming school year. It would be in effect, and that was something that our school districts, even the Plainfield School District, that's in Plainfield, Larry, we didn't leave them out, will be in effect because it's in Joliet. That's all I have to do. Okay. See? And then our liquor code. We allowing our package sales on to commence at 9 a.m. on Sundays now. Again, and I think it was some conversation, and I think we needed some clarity. You need to step in for me, Chris, on that.
That item got tabled to the next meeting, and the committee requested more information regarding what surrounding communities are doing with that. So we'll have it at the next meeting.
Right, so we tabled that, right? And then the amendment to the fine schedule. So that's also, we did some discussion on that, and we made no action, just trying to get everything in line.
It's on the agenda tonight.
Okay. All right, but we did have a lot of discussion concerning that, and then we also thought that the full council should kind of weigh in on that, because it was different fines for different, I guess, offenses and things of that nature. Okay? That's it.
Maybe could you break down the schedule so the public understands what we're talking about?
Sure, I can. The section we're talking about is section 1-8, and if somebody wants to know what the fine is for a violation of a certain ordinance, that's one table where you can go to and see all the fines. If you don't see an ordinance listed on that fine schedule, the default automatic fine is up to $750. So for example, maybe someone's gonna mention it later, fireworks, there's a set fine for that at $500. That's on the fee schedule. Sometimes the council sees fit to set a certain definitive fine for a certain offense. Sometimes they don't, and they're happy to leave it at the default level. Our administrative adjudication coordinator reviewed that table. There were a lot of obsolete items on there. There are a couple incorrect ones, and a couple needed updating, so this is just an updated version of that same existing schedule. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Public Service Committee report.
Public Service Committee met this afternoon at 4:30 here in the council chambers. On the committee and in attendance was Councilwoman Gavin, Councilman Morris, and myself, as well as Allison Swisher, Director of Public Utilities, Greg Ruddy, Director of Public Works, and some other members of their staff. Very short agenda, 4 items total. One to point out would be that we did look over the award of contract for the third and final leg of the increased sidewalk replacement and improvement program this year. This one was for the east section of the city. So we have central, east, and west, and they've all been awarded, and this one will be awarded most likely. This one was for $347,350 to Austin Tyler, which means between the three, we're probably approaching somewhere north of $1 million total, where in the past we only spent $250,000. And certainly I hope the council next year, this fall, that we do the same thing, that this can't be a one-off, it's gotta be continuous. Then there'll be, the annual cleanup for the Hickory Creek, Spring Creek, water basin, and that was, will be awarded to Greg W. Dobzik Excavating, and that was $88,000. We had a couple of lot improvements, on the change order to pay estimates and final payments. One on 1 South Displain Street, which is a city lot, as well as the lot out on Canton Farm Road by the West Side Police Station. And then we did look over a memorandum of understanding with the Heritage Quarter Convention and Visitors Bureau about placing one on the Ruby Street corridor. I'm sorry,
Broadway.
yeah, yes. And the other one either at the Union Station or at the new multimodal train station. And it's just a big giant sculpture of, what was it, Terry?
66.
66 is what it said, yeah, because it's the 100th anniversary in 2025, did they say? Or 2026?
25 or 26.
Yeah, I think it was 26.
2026, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Betty. So we looked over that memorandum of understanding. It would cost the city $1,000 to install the sign. It's an aluminum sign painted white, or sculpture, I will call it, or 3D, interactive. People, apparently they have it out in front of the museum right now, and people that do come through and visit along the Mother Road like to sit in the sign, which accommodates that, and get their picture taken with the sign. I keep saying sign, and I should say sculpture, or 3D sign. So we looked over that. All the items that we did look at were all voted on and unanimously approved to be sent forward to this council with the committee recommendation for approval. Did I miss anything, folks?
No, I think you covered everything.
All right, then in that case, Mayor, that would be my report.
Thank you.
I show no other reports. Under consent agenda, approval of the minutes. It's recommended the minutes of the pre-council meeting held on June 20th, 2022 stand approved as recorded. Council Memo 347-22, award of contract for the Lynn Avenue Emergency Storm Sewer Repair to Deconstruction in the amount of $29,684. Council Memo 348-22, award of contract for the Walsh Avenue Taylor Street to Douglas Street Roadway Improvement Project 2022 to Austin Tyler Construction in the amount of $577,632.91. Council Memo 349-22, award of contract for the 2022 electrical maintenance assistance contract to Van Mack Electric in the amount of $150,000. Council Memo 350-22, professional services agreement for the Storm Sewer GIS Mapping Project, Contract 1 to Hamilton Consulting Engineers in the amount of $117,200. Council Memo 351-22, payment of the 2022 membership dues for the Lower DePage Watershed Group in the amount of $27,570.47. Council Memo 352-22, recommendation to terminate contract with Ratio Design for citywide comprehensive plan. It's recommended Council Memos 347-22 through 352-22 be approved. Is there a motion to approve all consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug?
Aye?
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
I should have had this separated, but I vote aye on everything except the approval of the minutes. Since I wasn't here, I can't approve them.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Mayor, I just want to thank Greg Ruddy in reference to that contract over there on Lynn Avenue. They have a collapsed storm sewer over there when you come on in off the street. And I just want to say thank you for him getting on this and taking care of it. I vote aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mayor,
Yes.
before we move on, Jim, and if you don't have it available tonight, that's fine, you know, maybe at the next meeting. Where are we at in replacing ratio, with, you know, a qualified, consultant to move forward with our comprehensive plan? Because I know ratio, after the pandemic, I understand the backstory, everything slowed down, then they stopped doing it, they don't
Right,
do
they
that.
stopped doing it, and then they wouldn't do it
Right.
under those auspices. I believe we re-engaged, but I don't know. I will find out for you.
But let's make sure we keep that
Do you
moving.
have the answer? Okay, well, let's,
Thank you for the question. We are revising the RFQ and are planning to reissue the RFQ later on this year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Under licenses and permit applications, Council Memo 354-22, an application for a drive-through permit for a gas and wash car wash at 7801 Caton Farm Road. It's recommended the drive-through permit be approved for gas and wash at 7801 Caton Farm Road.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 355-22, an application for a drive-through permit for a Dunkin' restaurant at 7801 Caton Farm Road. It's recommended this drive-through permit be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 356-22, an application for a drive-through permit for a Takaniho restaurant at 7801 Caton Farm Road. It's recommended the drive-through permit be approved.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under ordinances, Council Memo 358-22, an ordinance amending the 2022 City of Joliet annual budget to comply with the Illinois House Bill 3653 mental health screening mandate in the amount of $42,900. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Always happy to fill an unfunded mandate from the state. Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye, I think this is very, very important.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 359-22, ordinances associated with Denler subdivision. This includes ordinances approving the extraterritorial review of a preliminary, final, and recording plat of Denler subdivision. It's recommended said ordinances be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Quick question there.
Yes.
Is the Denver, is that an unincorporated county project?
yes, it is.
Okay, so we get to weigh in because it's within a mile and a half?
Yes.
Are we requiring, because I may want to change my vote, are we requiring this developer to put $150,000 in our hands for perpetuity?
So I know the petitioner's attorney is right here. That's for, we had initially asked for that money for any improvements along, not the private road, but on the public road that we would be taking over from the township.
Right, but we're not annexing it. They may never want to annex.
We would be responsible for the road regardless. If we take it in and we don't, if we annex, we automatically own that road.
Right, if we annex, and at that point, we can get $150,000. Why would we tie up this small developer's money for, it could be 5 years, 10 years, or never? When does it get it back? In 1,000 years?
That's not part of this particular ordinance right now.
Right, but where are we at with that? If you don't mind, Mayor.
So,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, Tom Osterberger, I'm the attorney for the petitioner here. It is unclear to me whether that approval was with the requested variance. So what Councilman Hug is right, this is an extraterritorial review. I would disagree with Mr. Caparelli. This is a county road. The county has not required any funding for its improvement at this time, and there's not a reason to believe it will ever become anything other than a county road. New Lenox is on the north side of Cherry Hill, and so this is going to remain county, and the bond that Greg Ruddy always requests, in this case, won't do any good. But again, it's unclear to me whether that approval included our request for the variances of the City of Joliet regulations. Chris, I can't tell from the agenda.
No, what came out of Plan Commission does not have that included.
Does not include the variance?
It does not include the requirement for $150,000.
That's not included right now. Okay.
So this was approved subject to, approve the review, subject to the county's regulation, not the City of Joliet's regulation,
The bond requirement was not included.
and the other subdivision requirements as well. In other words, we had requested a variance from the City of Joliet subdivision regulations. For example, the street as it's currently built, because half of it's built, this is an addition to what's out there, doesn't comply. So literally, the owner would have to tear that street out and put one in, and the configuration of the private street, you can't put in a street that Joliet would otherwise approve. So when the review was done, we submitted and said, will you please approve the subdivision as the county is approving it, not subject to Joliet's regulations. So there's two components, the internal engineering and regulations and the bond. And those are all part of your normal, as you know, your normal subdivision approval process.
We've already voted on this, so is there an issue that needs to be addressed with staff?
Mr. Mayor, it's unclear to me whether that approval was consistent with the recommendation by Plan Commission to approve it subject to the variances requested or not.
Why don't you address it after the meeting? You can talk to
Because you just passed an ordinance and it's unclear to me and it's up in front of the county, Mr. Mayor. So if it isn't heard today, then the county.
Well, it just passed, but you guys can clear it up with them after the meeting. I'd like to get done with the voting.
I would withdraw my aye vote, switch it to a no. It's not clear enough for me to vote on it. I mean, tying up a man's, okay, it's great to hear that a small developer, not a big one, is not gonna have to tie up $150,000 for 1,000 years. And I'm not sure why we need to have them do it according to our ordinance. If they're gonna be unincorporated, if they ever wanted to incorporate, then we can require them to widen their roads, to meet ours, but right now they're not. So why would we give that extra expense to a small developer is my question.
It seems as though Mr. Regis has an answer. Can we just hear what his?
I think you did, but yeah.
The plats that were submitted by the developer were approved. There's no additional requirements included in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to let the record show that Councilman Hug withdrew his original vote, his aye vote, and changed it to a no vote, so it passed 6-1. Council Memo 360-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 1, fine schedule of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye?
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 361-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 19, Article 1, Section 19-9 of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug.
Aye?
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 362-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 21, Article 1, Section 21-5 of the Disorderly Conduct Ordinance of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would like the city manager just to give a brief or city attorney explanation for the public out there so they know what disorderly means.
Okay, hi. We need to give our police officers as many tools at their disposal to deal with issues that they can come across as we possibly can. And an issue that would come up from time to time in our schools was that a student would bring an item to school, a prohibited item. Generally, it's like pepper spray or mace or a stun gun or something like that. And the officer would not necessarily at that point want to introduce them into the criminal justice system because we all know that that can have unintended consequences. And instead, the officer may wish to write them a municipal ticket for that, for which they would have to incur a fine. Now, there can still be discipline imposed by the school. That's a totally separate deal that has nothing to do with us. But for perhaps a first-time offender, the officer might want to try to work with that young offender. And this gives them an alternative that they did not have before. They were writing tickets for disorderly conduct, but our ordinance did not exactly fit that situation, so sometimes those prosecutions were unsuccessful. So this just closes that loophole, gives the officers another tool at their disposal if they see fit to do it in that situation, and helps to better address those issues.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 362-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 21, Article 1, Section 21-5 of the Disorderly Conduct Ordinance of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances?
Move to approve.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Motion carried. Under resolutions, Council Memo 364-22, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Joliet and the Joliet Area Historical Museum for operations at the Union Depot Tower, Gateway Center Train Station. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 365-22, a resolution appropriating motor fuel tax funds for the Walsh Avenue, Taylor Street to Douglas Street roadway improvement project 2022 in the amount of $251,091.66. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 366-22, a resolution approving the execution of a telecommunications right-of-way access agreement and attachment agreement between the City of Joliet and Everstream GLC Holding Company. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 367-22, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement for the sale of real property at 1320 Ada Street. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is the city manager's report.
Yes, I'd like to address, well, two issues. One is I know that Councilman Gavin had mentioned the fact that some folks in the city were asking or soliciting motor transport from nonprofits. That's to come to an immediate halt. We have the MMD department here will provide transportation. All of the folks have to do is reach out. So I just want to make that clear. I didn't know that was going on, just from the liability standpoint. It was an awful thing. So I'm glad we got that straight. So I'd like to say thank you for Councilwoman Gavin for letting us know. Additionally, I know that tonight we went over quite a bit, and you know, the water raises. However, the bottom line is, it adds $5 to everyone's bill on average, which is still below, well below what Plainfield pays and some of our surrounding communities. So, you know, as much as they talk about percentages, you know, CCFs and all the other ancillary stuff, it's gonna be an increase of just $5 on average per water bill, which still puts us well below Plainfield and the surrounding communities. So I think that's a great value right there. So, and with that, it concludes my remarks.
New business, not for final action or recommendations next.
Joe?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Jim, the Glenwood Manor, Black Road and Infantry, we own a pond. I think it's the only pond we probably own. We really have, and Greg's working on it, Ruddy, we really have to address this issue. The HOA has reached out, I have numerous homeowners reach out. We have a landscape company blowing grass clippings into the pond. One of the fountains isn't working. I think they have a new contractor trying to deal with all the algae. It's really bad. I would like to have my colleagues go by there and see how bad it is, but they had to cancel a fishing derby for the kids, so we really gotta get on it, and whatever we can do to
Right.
help the neighbors out over there.
I know that contractor fell short of expectations, so we're on our way to get a new one. This happens from time to time, unfortunately. You know, people put in bids, you expect them to be able to do the work properly, correctly. That didn't happen in this case, so we're back out there getting somebody so we can rectify this, so. Thank you.
Betty?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to address city manager's comment about the transportation for staff events or things like that. I didn't know, Jim, that you did not know that these requests were being out there. We as nonprofits have no problem with making sure our JPD and our fire department can access transportation for different events. But I am so glad to know that now we are putting something in place where the events like this, especially when it comes to providing events for our children and developing our youth and staff. So thank you for following up on that, and you'll have your first one coming July 18th. So with that. So the other thing I'd like to address too is the Hickory Creek kind of clean up around those trees and low-hanging limbs, especially at the dead-end portion of Hickory Creek. I'm having residents reaching out saying, you know, that they need a little trimming. And they were told that they could not trim them themselves. One resident offered to do that. So we can take a look at that and make sure that the sidewalks and the walkway there is free from any low-hanging limbs. And that'll be all I have right now, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. I'll certainly take a look at that. We'll get them on it.
Caesar? Larry?
Nothing.
Terry? Jan? Sherry? One thing, Chief, and you spoke about this in public. I know we've been talking about the panhandling. If you can give the council just a little update of what we are doing and what you intend to do, and legal, maybe you could jump in as far as what the local ordinances say and whether they need to be modified or not.
Mr. Mayor, over the last weekend, we've focused on the community request to remove the panhandlers from the roadway. Doesn't mean you can't panhandle, it just means you can't do it in the middle of a busy intersection. So we have issued a number of different citations over the last several days for panhandling in a roadway. I put on my uniform last night and worked with my men, and I hit a lot of corners to see if there was in fact panhandlers out there, and I didn't see any. So I'm hoping that our enforcement efforts have paid off a little bit. We're keeping people off the roadway. Obviously, this is a huge safety concern more than anything else. But this is something that was brought to your office and brought to my office by the public.
Right.
So this is why we've got on it so quickly. And as of yesterday, we've seen some positive results, and I hope that continues.
Good, thank you.
Next is public comments. Is there anybody that would like to speak under public comments this evening?
Coming up. It's like the gong show.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, good evening. Speaking tonight as the president of Cunningham Neighborhood Council. I'm here tonight to talk about the 1000 Cora Street and the sex offenders that lived at residence. I would first like to publicly thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council members that were in attendance, and the City Attorney, Chris Regis, for attending our June 1st CNC meeting. To say the least, you certainly got an earful that evening. We had over 100 speakers in attendance, and everybody who wanted to speak got that opportunity. You folks sat there patiently and listened and answered questions for over 2 hours. It's been a little over 5 weeks since the issue came about. The Cunningham Neighborhood Council has not received any updates on what the city is planning to do about the property or what we can do to help the neighbors. At the June 7th council meeting, I do appreciate Councilman Guerrero, Councilwoman Reardon, for talking about the reimbursement program for Ring cameras that Chicago offers some of their bad neighborhoods. We've heard nothing back. In addition, Councilwoman Reardon is correct about the city's flock camera program being cost prohibitive. Our residents can't afford $2,000 or $3,000 for those cameras to be installed. She is also correct in the fact that the Ring cameras help fight crime in the areas. The first thing the JPD officer does when he's called to a crime in our area is look for homes with Ring doorbells and ask us to check our footage from our cameras. Yes, it's a win-win for all the city. All you have to do is contact the city of Chicago and inquire about their reimbursement program for Ring cameras, and I'm sure they'll be happy to share the information. You got it in with the water project, so you probably can get that answer pretty quick from them, how they operate that. Mr. Caparelli, you mentioned that the city doesn't currently have a reimbursement program in place for something like this. The cost would be less than nine grand, and it would be minimal in helping about 20 homes in that immediate area. The city currently is sitting on $22 million of COVID money that could be used for this program. Councilwoman Quillman, I do agree with you. It's time to get the rental ordinance out of the committee and get the ordinance discussed and passed. It does the city no good burying hot topics in committees. They need to be addressed head on. We need to put something in there about the distance between the type of homes or apartments. In addition, some type of notification to the city and the neighbors. I would also like to see the city work with our legislators to see what can be done about the court case. Can it be appealed to a higher court? I'm not an attorney, I don't know. If it can, why isn't it being done? After all, Roe versus Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court after 50 years. As Councilman Hugg said, the sex offenders are having more rights than the citizens. We have found out that New Day Apartments could care less what we have to say about them or their program is about. The same applies for the National Association for Rational Sexual Offense Laws. One of their board members named Nancy wrote a terrible article about our meeting and had no sympathy for our homeowners and kids that live in the area. I believe I sent a copy of that to you guys. I'm not certain, I think I did. Another thing I found out while researching this issue is that the people living at 1000 Cora Street did not register all at one time. They staggered in over 5 months. And that makes it harder to catch a pattern all at one address. So I think that's what happened, that we didn't see that all at one time, all 5 signed up, and so it didn't stick right out. To help this problem in the future, I would suggest that JPD run a report off the database once a month to possibly catch other addresses with more than one sex offender registered at that same address. That way the city could possibly notify the neighbors as to what's going on in their neighborhood. In closing, CNC is ready and willing to work with the city to try to correct this problem and try to stop this from happening again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. One thing, I agree with your recommendation for the police, and I think we're gonna be in position to talk publicly about this in the very near future, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and our police chief. My little 4-minute speech is on the fireworks going on that's getting out of hand. For the past 2 years, I've kept track of these fireworks in the 900 block of Center Street on the first week, second week of June. There's box trucks that pull up full of dynamite, quarter sticks of dynamite, M80s, and then the regular fireworks. And I've witnessed this myself. Let's see, so last night, I did this last year, but couldn't make the meeting, so I'm here tonight. Last night between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m., I counted 512 fireworks that went off. I live at the corner of Center and Ross, so that's just my little, like, 2 or 3 block area. And of the 512 fireworks that went off, 56 were quarter sticks of dynamite and M80s. I was in the Marine Force Recon, so I know what dynamite sounds like. I know how it explodes. Full sticks of dynamite, these are quarter sticks. And during Vietnam, I blew up plenty of tunnel complexes with C4, the dynamite, and Claymore mines. I also took 2 photographs last night of 2 different alleys where quarter sticks of dynamite went off, and I have them if anybody wants to see them in the alley, and they really did some damage to the cement. And also witnessed, I called the dispatcher twice, actually 4 times, but twice she sent out officers that drove by twice, people exploding these, the dynamite and the M80s. So I'll talk to you after the meeting.
I just have one quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The 900 block of Center, there was a truck of fireworks, a load of half or quarter stick of dynamite.
Yeah.
Did you phone the police when you saw this?
I told them that this was going to happen. It's happened for the past 5 years.
Okay.
I've been here 11 years, so.
Who did you tell? That means you
I
phoned
told
the
them.
police when you saw it?
Chief, your mic is going out, Chief. I don't know why.
Somebody was there from the police department, I told, and I actually gave a talk on that in front of everybody that was there.
Okay, maybe I could get some info from you
Yeah,
after this.
sure.
First of all, I wanted to get some info on what took place last night when the officer responded and there wasn't any
Well,
action taken.
the first time, the person had let off an M80 right on the sidewalk of the about 909 Center, and the police officer just passed by. Didn't even stop.
All right.
It went off.
Chief,
And then they
after
told
the
me that.
meeting, you guys could talk. Can you address the council then with your comments, please?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So what I'm getting at is, I know the police officers do an excellent job in Joliet, okay? But why don't they have the permission to write the tickets by themselves? 4 years ago, in 2018, when we had the fireworks went off, I made a complaint, had to sign it, and 2 days later, my window was broken in my minivan. So, I mean, police officers should have the opportunity to, if they see something, to write it. They don't have to. They're the ones witnessing it. So they don't have to have the residents, sign a complaint against somebody. You need to change that law. That law is just it's bad news, because by the time the police officer gets out there, it's just my word against the person setting off the ordinance. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing none, next is mayor and council comments.
Joe, Betty?
Yes, just want to have everybody circle the date. The August the 19th and the 20th, the Joliet prison break-in is happening again. The Blues Brothers are back, and so just circle the date. Thank you so much.
Caesar?
I just want to express the deepest condolences for everyone who had to suffer through what happened yesterday in Highland Park. I'm sure we're all saddened by this tragedy, and it's a shame that it ever had to happen.
Larry?
I would certainly agree with Councilman Guerrero. Our hearts and prayers go out to the community of Highland Park. I would also say I hope everyone had a wonderful Independence Day. Happy birthday to our great country. You know, to steal a quote from Samuel Clemens, otherwise known as Mark Twain, patriotism is supporting your country all of the time, and your government only when it deserves it. And that's how we should all live. We should always be proud of our country. Elected officials, not so much sometimes. Thank you.
Jan?
I would just like to thank everybody for their kindness and patience and cards and emails and et cetera. It's nice to know that people do watch this meeting, because when I don't show up, it's like, oh my goodness, what's wrong? And my colleagues and in case you don't know, it was the tragic death of my brother, and I just really want to appreciate everybody's patience with me, and it's a long road ahead, but we'll get there. Thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to add to what Betty said as far as the August 19th and 20th at the prison. When you say the Blues Brothers is back, it's actually Jim Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, so it's really going to be a big night. So thanks for mentioning that.
A couple things. On June 24th, Wild Birds Unlimited had another grand reopening of 1149 Essington. I was out there at the Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations to the folks at Wild Birds. The 29th, myself and Councilman Clement were at Tony's Finer Foods for their ribbon cutting. I was there over the weekend. Really impressed with what they've done at Tony's, what they're doing with the entire intersection, Planet Fitness, and the other stores that are coming to the outlots. So I want to welcome Tony's to Joliet. By Park on July 3rd had a fireworks show. It went off very well. It was a great crowd, great entertainment. I want to congratulate the people at Bicentennial Park and everyone who came out to participate. And of course, last night at Joliet Junior College, the fireworks show also went very well. Thank you to the Junior College for partnering up the last 2 years with the city of Joliet. Chief, I know I was on the phone with you throughout the day after what happened in Highland Park. Without getting too far into the weeds, I just want to let the people know that, to your credit, you had anticipated this type of event for all the major city events this year, that the SOS team has been involved in the planning. So, you know, it's something, it was a tragedy what happened there, but certainly we could do what we can to prevent it or respond if something does happen. And a credit to you, you've been on top of this before yesterday afternoon. You made this part of the planning, so.
We did. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. And then finally, Councilwoman McCormick, condolences to you and your family for the loss that you suffered. I hope everyone has a great summer, and I know we have executive session tonight, so we can wrap this up.
Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance, pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
So move. Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Motion carried.